Peace, y'all. We made it. The beginning. Challenges. Shout out Sean Tate, man. Good brother, man. I miss you, bro. You have to challenge yourself. You have to challenge yourself. In life, we become complacent. I want to say, for lack of better words, just not being up to the challenge. And it's no way, it's no way to really address that without being, without it being fear involved. Okay, fear of failing, fear of getting hurt. Fear. All right. A challenge for myself. I want to say just coming up in life and everyone, my circle, my comrades. Okay, we we come from an era where listening, I want to say listening, right? We like the hard heads, right? Listening was a challenge, perceived somewhat as passive. Okay, listening wasn't cool to do. Knowing it all. That was a way of kind of, so to speak, beating your chest. That was a way of, claiming dominance over, the imaginary idea of, what we were supposed to be at, really being young men. Okay. The challenge, look at the challenge, man, many challenges that I've ran myself up against just lacking the ability to listen, be it your parents, be it to, a situation and, being aware. Situations you misread them because you're not really listening. We're going to get into the definition in a minute. How about in school? Listening, to your teachers, okay? In sports, listening to your coach. Listening was a challenge for me personally, but I know I can speak for, many, man, I want to say all my peers. Listening was a challenge for us. And probably, more so today than ever, with the children and the technology and what they are up against. They don't know, really it's a lost art. A lot of lost arts, okay? But I had looked it up and I just wanted to, lay this on you. Hearing is actually the passive physical process where you receive sounds, okay? Listening is an active cognitive process that involves consciously choosing to pay attention to sounds and then interpreting their meaning. I find myself a lot in teaching, hearing answers before the question is even finished being asked. As whereas though you're listening to answer or you're listening to respond. All right. That's not listening at all. Okay. The challenge and challenging yourself to adopt a skill. Listening is the ultimate skill in communication. I know what you're about to say. Communication is speaking, talking, and having knowledge, and all of those things go hand to hand. They coincide with one another. But the listening is active listening. Shout out cousin E. We had a talk that was barbershop talk, right? You got an active listener, okay? To become an active listener is a skill set. That is a skill set. More so today than any than any other time, especially in the tech. We in the tech age or tech era. Okay, communicating with communicating with, of course, people, one another, communicating with yourself. That's what, my channel and my business is. But also communicating with the technology. Whereas though the tech or the devices are communicating with us and leading us with suggestion. Okay, the ability to listen is a lost art. The ability to listen is a lost art. Listening is broad. Listening to yourself. What are you thinking in this moment? Being able to process that data. Okay? I'm in customer service. A challenge, a challenge is actually communicating with certain people that are stuck in, it doesn't matter what it is. That's my job. That's my occupation, to communicate with the people, talk to the people. I love speaking with the people. Okay, you develop the skill to be able to listen, and it's certain things that you naturally are able to do when you become a better or become an active listener. Okay, to be charismatic, for one, is to find out before the engagement, in the presence of someone, right? Before you even engage with them, you listen. You listen not only to the sounds, and you observe not only the sounds that's coming out their mouth and you read their body language. And it's important to, when we're communicating, we communicate before our mouths open. You understand? So if the first instinct is you already have a preset answer, right? It's sort of like already giving yourself an excuse to a certain challenge that you're preparing to fail, versus preparing to succeed and be great. All right, that's sort of like the lack of listening. Without being able to listen, you're going to lack understanding, because we don't know everything. Okay, in part, the challenge that I present, and this is definitely geared towards the young men in the world. We have to develop our listening skills. That is the way. That is the way. Talk less, or speak once, listen twice, type thing. Okay. The challenge becomes become an active listener. You have to listen. And it was a challenge. It was a challenge that, man, I faced a lot of battles, not having the skill of listening. Listening could have said, looking back, hindsight's 2020. I could have been way more advanced, way more. I could have been at a higher level at everything had I developed the skill of listening. Not only just to your parents, to just listening in general. If you listen, the answer is usually there. You understand? Before already having the answer. How do you come up with an answer before you've listened? That's out of order. That's out of whack. Okay. I was looking at a video, and the brother's name was, I want to say, DJ Batisi. If I hope I didn't chop my man's name up, right? But he was talking about how you make a difference in a child's life at a younger age. Or he came in contact, I don't want to butcher the story, y'all know how I do. He was meeting with teachers, and the teachers, like I want to say 3, 4 years old, 5 years old. Was that preschool teachers, and their question was, what difference can I really make at this young in their life, right, or at this age, and the brother gave a real intimate story about a situation that he was in. Is whereas though, you know, had he had like we need to teach the youth not only to listen, this is piggybacking off the listening thing, but to be able to have that pause, and the pause like a pause button, right? Whereas though they take a minute, they breathe, and before reacting, right, they give themselves options. And how many of us, I really connected with this talking point, how many of us got into, you know, or seen, we've been in situations whereas though, we failed to, I want to say, read the situation, or failed to be aware of the situation and reacted when we could have actually responded, with lack of skills that wasn't instilled, or the skill that we didn't see demonstrated, and that was the pause. Give yourself an option, like a timeout, to breathe. Okay. And he went on to tell a story. He was a young guy. They was going out to a party. He stopped at a corner store to get a white t-shirt. He was ready for the party, right? And he grew up, like a lot of us grew up, in a teenage. I can't really say how old he was, but he went to the party. So whereas though he was at the party, and someone, he got dressed up. He bought the white tee, and somebody spilt something on his t-shirt, and he didn't have the capacity as a young man to stop and hit the pause, right? The pause button, and say, DJ, this is a $5 shirt. That was an accident. He didn't go and pour, the drink on your shirt on purpose. It was an accident. You can go and buy another t-shirt, cost $5. He wasn't trying to disrespect you. It was an accident. He wasn't equipped with like so many of us, right? Wasn't equipped with the skill or the option to say, breathe. You don't have to react to that as he did. And he started a fist fight. And the fist fight led to a whole bunch of chaos at a party, and shots went out, and the little girl got shot. That had nothing to do with it. She was just there having trying to have a good time. I say that to say, in elevating and becoming successful on whatever your endeavor is, right? Our job is to teach. Our job is to teach. Who better to teach than the up and coming? I mean, teach anybody. You can teach anybody. Teach everybody, right? But to demonstrate it, it has to be demonstrated. And it starts with self. Like, look at we have to, I challenge you, right? Like I challenge myself. I look at, the victories, after the loss, right? The victories after the loss, and the trials and the tribulations that I've faced, hands on, head to head. And, I dissect them and really find out what the root cause of it was. Okay. And not only heal from that, and healing is an ongoing thing, but you have to recognize it. And then when you went through a certain trial, after, years of misunderstanding and not having knowledge, and, just not knowing, okay, or being ignorant, whatever the case may be, our job is to teach. And when you teach it, you're able, your testimony is a life lesson for someone else. And hopefully they don't have to go through it, Remember, was it Jay-Z had the song, Hove did that. So hopefully you won't have to go through that, in that regard. Okay. The challenge, you're never too old to learn. Never too old to learn. If it's a new skill, if it's yoga, if it's hey man, whatever you, if you want to learn to read, it's never too learn to, never you're never too old to learn to read. Okay, um, it's about challenges, man. And I begun this video, shouting out, man, my late great friend, man, like my brother, man, Shantae. I remember, I was going through having a moment in life then, and me and him reconnected, and it was like, yo, we about to go ball, and I'm like, this was back when I was, I was dealing with things and with my job, my family, courts, and I was all over the place. I didn't even know I still, was an athlete. He said, man, what you mean? I'm about to go unwind, go sip on one, go have, it's Miller time type thing, right? Man, nah, we about to go ball, man. Ball is the Miller time. And it's just like, it was like a light bulb that went off. And like, yeah, you know what I mean? And it was a different shift than what I was doing every day. And it was to me personally, that was therapy. How about that? And that was like a therapy for me. It was therapeutic. Had therapeutic properties. You understand? And you know, in that, like, we should challenge ourselves, different things. We should challenge ourselves on anything. I mean, it could be physical work. It could be, study, what things that we study. Cause we can have conversations and build about, other things far out that people wasn't really in levels of consciousness and understanding that people, you know, you have to know, you have to have that portal open to even go there to even discuss, right? Because not everybody can have a conversation about anything, especially in a land where, we're next to each other and we're communicating by text message on these devices. Okay, communicating is like sort of like a lost art. That's why it's so powerful, and the skill, it requires a skill now. Look at that. Think about that. Where communication is something that requires skill now. That's how much, technology then, sort of like, Terminator, right? It's like a war against the machines, right? We built the machines and now the machines is running us, okay? Yeah. So, I say all that to say, yeah, the challenge, we gotta continuously, you have to challenge yourself. You gotta challenge yourself not only to be the highest version of yourself, not only to do better, eat better, speak better, but you have to listen better. Okay? You have to challenge better. Everything should be a challenge, not faced with challenges. You know, the challenge of, being, feeling saddened because, of a loss of, a loved one, which is just being human because you care about, we care about people, okay? Or, not the challenge of, any form of despair, right? Or, feeling challenged, because you're ashamed of, said events that, no, I'm not referring to, situations that presented themselves and circumstances that presented themselves. I'm talking about challenge self, right? To grow, to expand, to change the perspective of those events that, that you believe shaped you, but those events really evolved you. Okay, so now you have the information. What are you going to do with it? You know what that's like over there. You know what that's like to build something and have to watch it, crumble to the ground. You have what you need to build again. And you can, along the way, certain things that to look out for, to be aware of, to observe. Listen to certain things. Actively listen to be an active listener. Okay. Yeah. So I challenge you, to keep the challenge. It should always be the challenge. Challenge yourself to do more. Challenge yourself to not only to develop and expand, okay? Challenge yourself to not to not fail. Not even to say that. I don't want to say it like that. How can I say it? Challenge yourself to shout out brother soul. Challenge yourself that challenge yourself to know that actually failing is not an option. There is no option other than what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is this. And that's going to be that. You know? And it's not one size fits all. You don't have to do what everybody else is doing. You got one turn. This your life, live it. You understand? Muhammad Ali was asked what he was going to do after he retired. He said, "What I'm gonna do after I retire?" He said, in 30 years he'll be 65. He said he broke it down. He broke down mathematics. Mathematically, he said, "Man, I'm preparing to meet God." You know what I'm saying? So I only say that to say stay in the now. The beginning. Man, it's truly wonderful, man. I hope everybody have a great everything. Hit that like and subscribe. Don't forget to comment below, man. Anything that you want to express to any of your challenges that you face or have faced that may can help anybody else out. Because, like I said, you went through your trials or your testimonies, and you went through it, so someone else don't have to necessarily go through the same thing. Peace.